I don't know what got into me. Maybe it was the fire behind me. So I straddled him, and I've got like this, the wild hair and the music's playing. I felt so in my body. I felt so powerful, so beautiful, so there. And I felt like a goddess.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to have Marianne Simon today with us on Sex, Lies, and Menopause. And Marianne and I met in a online business coaching program we think around 2012, approximately. So
Time does that,
something like that. So it's been a chunk of time, and we've stayed loosely in touch and then reconnected in the last few years, which has been really nice. And very happy to connect back in and hearing where Marianne is now. And just want to give a little bio before we get this off and rolling, because she's got a lot more than what I've just said. Marianne Simon was brought up in a household of artists surrounded by writing, music, dance, and painting. She was tossed into the theater at the age of 8 when her parents enrolled her in San Francisco's American Conservatory Theater. Over the years, she performed on stage and screen, began directing plays, and ultimately writing her own, which I did see you on stage, which was awesome. In a surprising detour, Ms. Simon discovered a passion for nature and went back to school to become a landscape architect. It was a completely different form of creative expression, and yet similar, as she brought her visions to life in a new way. Throughout her life, she blended the two worlds. By day, digging in the soil, playing with plants. By night, writing late tales of rocks, trees, and waters wild. Along the way, she raised a beautiful daughter and shared a wonderful life with her husband until he passed away in 2017. Today, she finds herself on the cusp of a new beginning, embracing this next phase of her life with joy and anticipation. I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that so that I could share it with everyone, because that's just beautifully put together, all of your beautiful skills and talents. All right, so Marianne,
Yes.
we're going to talk about this next phase of life.
Yes.
So this is going to focus, as we talked about sexual pleasure exploration journeys, menopause, and any myths that you've busted along the way. And I know you've written a book on grief, which you didn't mention in your bio. This is like your latest amazing creation that you've just put out in the world. And I know that, there's a piece that connects about your sexual exploration and journey throughout the grieving process. And so where would you like to begin?
Yeah.
No.
In all of that.
On all of that.
I guess I will begin with the book.
Okay.
And the reason it's not mentioned, I realize, in the bio you read is because it's the bio for the book.
Oh, got it.
But next time I'll make sure to include the book. So yeah, that's funny. So the book is actually called There Be Dragons. And then the tagline to it is Navigating Life After Loss. So it's actually a book I started writing almost immediately after my husband died. In part, having always been a writer and an artist, that this was how I would communicate, how I would process the grief, how I would figure out next steps. And so I started writing the book in 2017, and then along the way would go, oh, I really need to turn this into a book. But it wasn't until this year, the beginning of 2025, when I guess I was ready, and worked with a mentor, which really helped as far as the accountability. And in September of 2025, launched it out into the world. And as I put in the bio, completing that felt very much like I was closing a chapter. And it's not as though I'm closing a chapter on grief, although that's a whole other conversation in that the impact of the grief changes over time, as we all know, when you've lost someone, that in the beginning you can't breathe. And then over time it starts to ease and it changes. But it also felt that in completing that it would open the door to something hugely new. And I still can't believe I did it. The the courage that took, in part, to go back to that time in my life, as well as to put that vulnerable writing out into the world. And yet it felt so important to do, not just for myself, but in having learned what I learned in that process, making that available for others. Find comfort, hope, to not feel like they're alone in the confusion, in the sorrow, in whatever it is that they're feeling. So, yeah.
No. Yeah, and I'm just struck that when you say you're completing, it's like, and you also talk about this new phase of your life, this, what do they call it, the second spring or the third act, or
Third act. I'm leaning into the third act. Being the actress and all. That really resonates for me.
yeah. So how do you feel completing with that chapter of this 8-year period? Was it an 8-year
Yeah.
period?
Yeah.
Period. Amazing. How do you feel like completing in this very big creative way and visible is leading you into this third act?
I Yeah, I don't even know that I can put it into words. It feels like it's an energetic thing. I think the big thing is, having taken that huge leap, the first thing that hit me was that I couldn't go back. I think when we expand with whatever happens in life, that old saying, you can't step back into the river in the same place. And then also in the back of my mind was that having survived his loss, I could do anything. I forget that sometimes, when I get scared, but it was sort of like my deepest fear came true. And having navigated that, why not? The challenge, of course, is, what does the third act look like? There's definitely the desire to put what I've learned over the past 8 years out into the world in a different way.
You mean different than the book, or?
Yeah, so potentially starting to speak about it, having this conversation with you today. And it's so much about this message of, we have to have permission to do it our way. And that doesn't just apply to grief. I mean, that applies to everything in our lives, to move away with what we've been told and what we see, to really go, what is true for us? What's the song we sing to, dance to, and just following that. And that's really how I'm looking at my third act, is just trusting that whatever it was that I was born with, whatever purpose I have on this planet, this belief, and you're here with me, that we were born for these times, that there is something that I am meant to do, and that it will just continue to become more and more clear. I have to be patient. And trust. I think trust is the big one. Faith.
Mm-hmm. And we're sort of going to be all over the place with the
Of course.
chronology here, because I just feel like I want to lead into, and how does sex and relationships and love into this third act, and then we'll go backtracking with
Yes,
sex
yes,
being part of your grief healing too.
yes. It was part of my grief healing. Um, in the third act, it is very much, it's weird because I can't, it's hard to talk about the third act without the context.
Okay, you can talk about context.
Okay. So, so was married for 26 years with an incredible man. And that being said, our physical relationship was not all that I had hoped for. Um, he was older, um, had his stories, I had my stories, and we didn't always mesh in a way that, and maybe it was reading too many of these romance novels where we've got this talk about a myth, right? About ripping off the bodice and throwing you up against a wall and,
That's
there
the
must
only way sex is.
course, that, and in the movies, it's the same thing. So, there's definitely room for what the illusion, the fantasy about that is. But even between that and where we were, I think there was room for improvement. Um, and I'm sad that we weren't able to communicate in that way a little bit more deeply. The irony, I don't know if that's the right word, was after, I'm going to call him Mike instead of my husband. After Mike died, I reconnected with a man who I had been with in college. And he was my first lover. He was my first love. And sex with him was out of this world.
It's a tough act to follow. That's awesome. It's awesome that you got initiated in that big, awesome way.
Maybe it was just, in comparison, we didn't quite. But what was so interesting was coming back to him in this new place. And we broke up for a lot of reasons, which I won't go into in this podcast, but he had some work to do. But meeting him, 40 years later, and it was a fluke. I had reached out to him, or he had reached out to me, and he had just put out a book, and he was letting me know. And I didn't answer in the beginning, and when I finally did, I told him, that Mike had passed, and he said to me, "Do you need me to come out? Do you need me to be there?" And I said yes. And we've both evolved so much from where we were as youngsters. And he wasn't a completely different person. He had a life, and so he came back to me much more mature, much more supportive, able to hold me in my grief without trying to fix it. Able to hear not just the grief, but the anger and the fear and all the other feelings that are there. And he was still an incredible lover. That had not changed.
Yahoo!
Yahoo! And so it's an interesting, whether it's from a death or a divorce or a breakup, when you leave one partner and you go to a new partner, those moments where he would do something, and not just sexually, but just, we'd go out to lunch or whatever, and there would be this, almost like this mirror of doing the same thing, but with Mike. Like he'd put his hand on my back, and it was like, Mike used to do that. So there was this period of adjustment where it's like, and just to honor him, it's like, no, you are not my husband. You are potential new partner, potential new love. So finding that place where I could let go of the past and welcome in a potential future. And especially in the beginning, the sex was relief. It was moments when I wasn't thinking about anything else except being so present in my body and in the pleasure. That is such a gift, because a lot of times with sex, we like go up into the head, right? So having that as, and it wasn't escape per se. It was just presence. I think that is more true. And again, he was very talented in his, and not just in his skills, because he was so comfortable with his sexuality. It gave me permission to be more comfortable with mine. And after my experience with Mike of not always feeling desired, which is what happens when the sex isn't there in the way that you desire it to be, that sense of, do you find me attractive? Do I turn you on? And buried under that is, do you love me? Sad but true. So with this new old man, I felt adored. I felt cherished. I felt sensual. I felt sexy. I felt in that time like a full, rich woman. It was such a gift. Such a gift.
So beautiful. Yeah, and I think when we talked, you mentioned how sort of in this phase of your life is the first time you actually love your body, or what?
Yes.
Were you saying something to that? Do you?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think when that actually started. So I've never, gratefully had a love-hate relationship with my body. Growing up, I had acne. The partner was the first partner, but that wasn't until I was 19. So there was the terrible teens where you feel, all the things you feel as a teenager. And I think I think most women have this relationship, as opposed to looking at what's right, it's like, well, what's wrong with, the nose, the hips, now getting older, it's the neck. There's always there will always be the something or the some things. There came a point in my life and I don't remember the trigger of the class or the words somebody said, but I started, and it's weird to say it, but for some reason it made a big shift in that I started to look at my body as a her. But not in the way, and this is what's the weird part, is because when I say that, the words that come out, it's like, oh, that sounds like I've disassociated with my body, but that's not at all what happened. It felt like somehow by giving her an energy, a persona, I could love her in a different way. Maybe it was because we've been taught not to be selfish. So this idea of I love my body comes off as being, arrogant or whatever, by calling this beautiful body a her. I could love her fully. I could give her grace. I could be kind to her. I could take care of her. And that feeds into the comfort, in the sexuality, I think, when we're sitting there tearing ourselves apart, then it becomes all the what's wrongs.
Um, I, yeah, I love that. I
But it's
love,
weird, isn't it? That thing of calling it like it's separate, and yet somehow by making it a her, it became something I could hold more closely.
I know, but it feels right. The
And
mind,
maybe that's all that matters, right?
it really feels like when you say her, I get the vibe that you're saying like the goddess. I don't know, there's something elevated when you say her, like a capital H,
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Yes, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. This
So,
divine thing.
and what do you think contributed to all of that? What, it seems like it wasn't just, what were all the pieces that came together for that? I think,
Right. Yeah. I remember having a conversation with a group of friends and saying that. And of course, one of my friends reacted a little oddly to that. So can't have been that long ago. Um, I would say in part, I started dancing again. So that could have added to it.
oh,
I yes, I did a few years ago. I started salsa dancing. Talk about sexy.
you're making me, I mean, I've been wanting to learn those kinds of dances and have been avoiding it, and you completely inspired me to do it.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's interesting, because Mike and I tried salsa. He didn't like the sort of having to learn steps. Um, but it's a Latin dance. So it is a culture that has no issues with sensuality. You get I took bachata for a while, which is like literally your thigh is between his thighs. And to take a class with perfect strangers, right? Doing that thing, the body rolls. Yeah, interesting.
That is awesome. That takes so much guts. It's awesome.
You kind of have to just go, it's okay. And it's got to be even more awkward for him, right? Just because of where your thighs are. Um,
Or
but
not, because he likes it.
And it was weird because I'm probably 30 years older than most of the guys in my class. So you've got an age thing in there because, right, menopause is one of the topics. But so yeah, I would say that dancing contributed to it. Um, I had worked with a nutritionist and just learning to honor what I put into my body, feeding her more mindfully. Um, all kinds of, workshops that I took in getting more comfortable with soul, with connection. So it's a lot. Yeah, I don't think I'm sure there was like the catalyst, but it had been this buildup.
And being with Steve and feeling like a sex goddess.
Feeling I did. There was a night, and I know I shared it, but I'll share it again because it was so delicious.
Okay.
And it's so weird because, yeah, because we'll finally get to the third act with this conversation, but there was a night. So one of the reasons we are not together, is he doesn't live in California. And I'm not in a place where I want to leave California. He's got family stuff that he can't leave. And there were other reasons, but so I had gone out to visit him, and he lives in a place that's colder than California. And so there was a fire, and he'd actually pulled the mattress out. So we had slept in the living room. So it was like warm and cozy, and outside it snowed. I mean, it really was. I could write a fantasy book about this. And and most of the time, there was definitely the time that he had to sort of like bring me out, and I would warm up and loosen up and have a good time. But this was a time when I don't know what got into me. Maybe it was the fire behind me or wherever I was, the grief was easing or was quiet in the moment. So I straddled him And I've got like this, the wild hair and the music's playing. And I felt like a goddess. And that he was my, I'm not sure, supplicant? Is that the right word?
That sounds good. So,
I'm sure there's another word. I was the priestess. He was honoring at my gate, whatever you want. But
absolutely.
it was such a sense of, and it comes back to the body. I felt so in my body. I felt so powerful, so beautiful, so there. We dishonor that we are alive. As I'm saying these words, the voices are going on. How dare you say how beautiful you felt? Who are you? All this puritanical bullshit.
Good catch.
What? Why can't we claim it? Why can't we claim it with pride and joy and go, yes, I am beautiful, powerful, free, glorious. This man adores me. I adore me.
That's huge right there.
And I won't say 20 minutes later, but eventually, you come down from that and you go, what the hell was that? But in that moment, and I realize we're going into territory that is all over the place, but yeah. Yeah, and it is a magnificent sensation to feel so whole.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And you had been dancing prior to this moment, I
Yes.
take it.
Uh,
Or no?
it's hard to say. Yeah, because I started dancing maybe 3 years ago. And Mike died 8 years ago. So it could have been before. I don't remember,
Okay, okay.
but it was a good trip.
It sounds amazing. Wow, that's incredible. Peak experiences like that, they give you a glimpse of your true potential.
Yeah, yeah. So that brings me into the third act,
Right?
which is having had a husband who I loved without the great sex and having a great sexual partner, and there were other ways that we were not a good fit. Going into the third act, and I'm finally ready for it because before the book, I wasn't ready for it. The possibility that there is a partner where I can have it all.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah.
But now, and I remember going to an astrologer 3 years ago and asking her, will I meet somebody? And she says to me, I think you need to work some stuff out first. So, and again, there's no guarantee. Just because I want it doesn't mean that it will happen, but putting it out in the world sure changes things. But yeah, I want someone who can be friend, partner, support, and who I can have a beautiful physical relationship so that we can commune in that way, so that we can feel that this whole thing that, we're just human is bullshit. We are animal. We are animal, and it's an incredible feeling to trust in that. So I want the werewolf. I want the the books I'm reading, right? But that's why those are so popular.
Yeah.
Those kinds
And
of
but you had a visceral experience of it, so you know it's possible.
yeah.
So awesome. So awesome. I love it so much. And so as we talked about, we will be interviewing you again when it happened.
Right.
Um, all right, let's see what else we got here because I know there's lots. Oh, yes. So there's another thing that you mentioned that helped you through the grief.
Yes.
Would you like to share about that right now?
Are you talking about masturbating? Is that what we were talking?
Yeah. How did sex in that way?
Oh man. So I think if we're going to talk about the masturbating, we also have to talk about expanding what sex is.
Okay. Well, we're definitely going to be talking about that, no question. So, yes, kick us off.
To kick us off, so uh, it's interesting because God, there's so many things that are like uh, there is sometimes a conversation around sex that is, on one hand, almost transactional. It's all about the orgasm. There's other conversations about sex that are about communing and the divine and this incredible transformational out there. And in the past, I have felt a little bit guilty because I don't always have the straddle him, feel like a goddess moment. I think that's the tagline for your show, the guy who straddled him, goddess-like moment. I would feel guilty because sex was very get me to the orgasm moment. I want that release. I want that buildup. And so when I would masturbate after Mike died, it was very much, I need the release. For the 5 minutes or 10 minutes that it took me and my vibrator to be out of my body, or in my body, actually, out of my mind and in my body. And then I could sleep. And literally there were nights where it was, I can't sleep, and I'd pull out my vibrator to turn off the loop, to shut it down. And, when we were talking this thing about getting hit by grief or whatever, you've just gotten fired or your house is burned down or whatever catastrophe, one of the first things that can happen is we go numb. We literally leave our bodies, or you don't know what to feel. There's so much that you cannot go, oh, this is this, or this is this, or this is this. It is, I don't know what to feel, or there's so much, it's just overwhelming. And so for me, it was that, it was turning off the loop. It was and it was so focused. It wasn't even like, you and I have conversations about sex and like, ooh, sex behind my elbows or behind my knees or, playing with my vagina. It was like none of that. It was vibrator on the clitoris, make me come. I just need to come. Right. And it's weird. It's kind of like watching pornography in a weird way. And then it's like, there was one goal.
That's it. And it was useful.
It was useful. I still do it at times. Different now. There's it's still when I can't sleep. Nice. Because you get this build up and then you get the release and then you can relax and whatever was going on in your head just sort of fades away.
Right. And then so you were, prior to Mike dying, did you masturbate regularly or you had the vibrator already? And
yeah, I had the vibrator already. And especially as I went into perimenopause, people talk about different body changes. I went crazy with the hormones and the desire that was not being met the way I needed it to. There were nights in there where I was masturbating 2 and 3 times just because there was so much of that energy. And I felt like I scared him sometimes with how urgent that felt. And I remember going to therapy. We tried therapy on it a couple of times, and the therapist saying, now that I think about it, once you're done with perimenopause, this won't. And I don't know if it's what she said or what I heard. I'll say that. Basically, that once you're done with menopause, you won't have to worry about that as much. That's what I heard. And in some ways, it's kind of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not the whole picture, the whole story. Like, You won't have to worry about it, therefore you won't have to worry about having a sex life.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
they're trying to,
Yeah.
what they're
Yeah.
kind of,
With already, and I don't think that that's what she meant. But again, given where I was in my physical relationship with my husband, that was kind of what I heard.
yeah, it's like, it's a problem that you have this right now and he can't meet you. And therefore, yeah, it's not a positive, encouraging
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we move into the menopause part of the conversation. And what was so lovely when you and I had talked was the I had just listened to one of your other podcasts where she was talking, and forgive me that I don't remember who your guest was, but she was talking about how it's important to move away from the conversation about sex just being about intercourse. Because if I had been, or we had been able to do that, maybe we could have met in a different way. And because I had gotten so desperate, I'm sure it pushed him away.
Right.
And then it just became this.
Close.
So,
Yeah.
and then, as we're talking, men's bodies are changing as well. So an erection doesn't come as easily or
Stay as long.
stay as long. And yet you want to be able to communicate that way. And so what does it look like to say, because that's where I went. I think it's where a lot of women go. If he's not hard, he doesn't want me.
Right.
And so talk about a myth, right?
There's another myth.
There's another myth. Let's bust that one. If he's
Bust
not
that
hard,
one.
he doesn't want me. If he doesn't want me, I'm not sexy or desirable. So we're right back in that same place.
Yeah.
So how do we expand, not just, yeah, we'll leave it at that because I still want the orgasm. I still want the release, but that it is, and that was the wonderful thing about having sex with Steve is I would turn around and it's like, we've been at this for an hour, or more, because it was so sensual. It was so licking and kissing and massaging and touching, and all parts of my body felt alive. And then with that was permission to do the same for him, to not just be less inhibited in my body, but less inhibited in how I was with his body. And so this focus, this teeny tiny focus that, what is it to get his dick in your vagina? Ooh, sex, orgasm if you're lucky. It's so small.
So small compared to all that's possible.
Yes. I would like more of what all, and recognizing that I am now, I'll be 64, potentially this next partner there, unless I'm dating a 40-year-old. Maybe I'll tell you that story too.
Tell me that story.
But, unless I'm going to do Stella Gets Her Groove Back, which is possible. I'm not ruling it out, but there is the potential. There is the potential that this next partner, that will be something we will have to dance with.
Sweet.
Without him being embarrassed or me being embarrassed or all of that head bullshit, and going, how can we be with each other physically? How can we give each other pleasure in a way that isn't necessarily what and maybe the vibrator comes back out to help things along a little. Who knows? Not ruling it out.
Not
Ruling it out. But yeah, that, and it comes, and again, that the more we expand the conversation about what sex is, the more inclusive the body becomes. And it's not just, my tits and my pussy, but all of this beautiful body that wants to be adored. We want to be adored, and we want to adore.
I just love that you've had it with Steve, so why not with somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't know about it,
But the voice in me, the little voice, she's quieter now than she used to be, is like, was that just a fluke.
Right. Of course, there's always that feeling that it's a fluke, but it's a reality, sex in the third act. That if you
A
want to,
book. I think it's a book, don't you?
look, absolutely. If you want to have that holistic sex, and that's what's the beauty of the third act. If you haven't learned it before the third act and you want to keep expanding sexually, then this is the new definition,
Yeah.
right? It sounds like it was probably the best sex of your life.
Yes.
And it wasn't dependent on intercourse. Hello.
Yes. Well, there was some of that, but yes.
It wasn't dependent on it.
It wasn't, but it was definitely the payoff. I mean, I'm not going to deny it wasn't the payoff.
Why?
Why? But it was so much. It was that and more, so much more. Yes. I will say that. Yes.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I love it. So, right. So, I mean, I'm right with you in terms of expanding the definition of sex because I literally can't have intercourse
Mm.
at the moment. I can't. I've got this very tight vagina that is related to some trauma that I'm healing,
Mm.
and didn't realize it was related to that. Didn't know I had that particular sexual trauma. So, and I'm not the only one. There are many women who are dealing with this potential, and I don't think it's just menopause related for some. I think I don't know. Who knows? It could be.
Right.
There are different names for it. Different women have it differently for different intensities. So I've had to learn, all kinds of different things. So,
Yeah.
and yes, am I looking forward to it? Yes, absolutely. So I'm right with you. But in the meantime, sex can still be awesome.
Yes. And as you're saying that, there definitely has been the dryness that, I mean, that is an issue and
And so what have you experienced with the dryness?
mm,
Like you're not taking anything forward.
I'm not, and I'm not even sure where it started, but I have never wanted to take pills
If you don't,
if I don't, if I don't have to. And it was something, plus, years ago, there was a lot of myth or not about how hormone treatments actually had side effects like breast cancer. And it was like, in my menopausal sort of physical were not so severe. Like I've talked to women where it's just they don't know who they are.
it's
Between the hot flashes and the brain fog and the whatever. So for whatever reason, I was spared most of that. So I didn't see any reason to, except when all of a sudden was like, if I want to have sex and it just doesn't get as wet as it used to. So I tried the suppositories, and with the doctor who was like, you can do this, if you know you're, since our relationship was, kind of every couple of months, it wasn't, we were
right.
doing it all the time. I could start a couple of weeks earlier, get a little whatever. I don't know how much that worked. I mean, we ended up using things like coconut oil and saliva and, other lubricants.
You make it work.
Make it work. It smells good.
Absolutely. Those are good. Those are really good. Yeah. Coconut.
Yeah.
I've got a one that doesn't exist anymore, made by a homeopath for women.
Yes. Yes. I think you had told me about it and I tried to get it and they were out of business. Yeah, anyways. But the idea, and especially with the coconut oil, because it really does become like you're just massaging and then it just sort of, it's everywhere. You're like all slippery and shiny. And with the fire, I was all shiny.
It's awesome. Glistening. Got it.
It's glowing. But yeah, so I didn't do the hormone replacement stuff.
And so you have found a way to work around it. And as I understand, I mean, this is why I want to have more of a regular self-pleasure practice, is that the more you are putting attention and bringing
Mm-hmm.
blood to this, to the vagina, to the
Right.
everywhere, you're actually stimulating more potential for it to be more juicy.
Right.
And
Yeah, you talked about that.
it really does help.
Yeah. So that would presume that it wasn't so much vibrator oriented as perhaps a little more picky.
Well, patience is time. Yeah. Well, I mean, the vibrator, yeah, brings it on really quick,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And it's so interesting. I've learned also, this is sort of an aside. Well, it's all related. It's like there's the camp that says if you're not wet, then you're not turned on enough and you need more
Same
for,
thing.
right? So there's
Hmm.
that. But then there's also this camp of women who are about to get raped will actually secrete to protect, the vagina protects itself
Oh
by,
my gosh.
isn't that incredible? So, I mean, that's another camp where a woman might think, oh, I'm already wet, I must be ready. And you might not be.
Mhm.
So it's just good to know,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
These facts, often women just, but often women are not getting enough foreplay.
Yes.
They're not truly ready.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah. But it's the exact same thing with the man's erection,
yes,
right? It's like here's a sign that we're good to go. And then when you're not wet, you get into your head and then forget about it.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you were also saying that you feel there's this whole thing also like if you didn't have an orgasm, how will it impact them?
Yeah. Yeah.
To say, I know you had a little thing about that, like you had a
Oh,
gentle,
so instead of the big O, the capital O, it was a small O.
I've had many of those too. And
where there's like it builds, it builds, it builds, and then it just fades away.
and
And that has to be okay too.
right, and you said it was pleasurable, right? You
Yes.
enjoyed,
Yes.
I've enjoyed it too, but somehow you feel like, oh, I don't know if they're going to feel like
Right.
I did well enough to make them feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is where you get into, women faking it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so yeah, so to say to a partner, and I have said that, it was like, well, even though I didn't come, I really enjoyed myself. That felt so good because it's like it is that kind of thing where you're like it builds up, it's like it's coming, and then it just kind of dissipates. And at a certain point, it's like, stop touching me. Um, we've moved into annoying now.
I know that so well. And I know ways to mitigate that actually.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to listen to more of your podcasts.
I haven't talked about it yet, but
So yeah, so that doesn't mean that it was a failure. It doesn't mean that the experience wasn't worthwhile, that our time together wasn't. We're so product oriented, so goal oriented.
and,
Yeah, really mess ourselves up.
and even to the point where you had called it an orgasm here, a little one, but now you're not even calling it an orgasm. You've gone back on yourself. What?
Dissipates. It just dissipates. The energy, because the energy is so concentrated, right? When you're about to, it's like it's all there, and then it kind of just goes, oh.
And you know what? I've decided that yeah, I was going to say that is an orgasm, or I was going to say it's a pleasurable movement of energy, like of sexual.
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's not nothing. It's
Yeah.
not a big explosion, a peak orgasm. For example, in Tantra,
Hmm.
I had an, I had, well, I wasn't trained in Tantra at all, but I had this unusual, like amazing, surprising, accidental valley orgasm in Guatemala when I was traveling and met this English guy, and we did not have penetration. We were just chilling after a hike where I had almost gotten dehydrated, and we were just hanging out, and he was just sort of energetically sort of around my pussy, just not really doing anything touching directly, but and we were just chilling. And then at one point I said to him, I said, you know what? I I said, all I can feel right now is my head. I said, the rest of my body is merged with the universe.
Mm.
And I don't know when it started and I don't know when it ended. Now, that's called a valley orgasm. It's not a peak and then a crash.
Yeah.
It's sort of like or they call it a tantric orgasm, or it could be a cervical orgasm. It's like a different kind of experience. And there was no peak, but was it blissful? I mean, it was exquisite. And I don't even know when it ended. I was sort of aroused for 3 days. Like it was just this like, you know what I mean? So for that to like build and then to have this like beautiful dissipation feels like kind of a half of that and a half of the traditional. You know what I mean? It's a hybrid.
But yeah, it comes back again to this very narrow description of
Exactly.
sex. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And was it pleasurable? Yes. Like that's what counts.
Right.
Anyways.
Yes. And so it comes back to that thing. We have to expand the definition of sex.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially like, I mean, there are people who, yeah, will never have intercourse based on all kinds of issues, physical
Right.
disabilities or whatever it is. Like,
Hmm.
but they can still have sex, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Sure. Um, you were also going to talk about your the story about the age difference. I don't know how you had originally talked about it.
Yeah, I can't remember how we got. Oh, yeah, yeah. So we were talking about, as men get older, or not necessarily older, how, keeping an erection can be a challenge. And up to this point, other than, um, the new old partner, there hadn't been anybody, and I wasn't doing the swiping thing. Um, I met Mike in a car accident, so that kismet is kind of how I'm trusting that I'm going to meet whoever's next, my third act. That it will happen in the old-fashioned way, person meets person, and or not. It's possible it won't be, but the energy of being open to that is the first important step. Is the first act. Is the first scene to my third act. Um,
Love it. Love it.
so all that being said,
Hmm.
I was having some work done on some construction work done, and um, and the foreman was this tall, not necessarily attractive in a typical way, but he had a nice energy, and I wasn't even like I wasn't dressed, I wasn't wearing any makeup. I mean, I was just going about my business. He was working on my stairs. And at one point, he came over and, I think I went over and I said, if you need to use the restroom or if you need any water, let me know. He was very polite, friendly. He had a nice sense of humor. I appreciated the way he was working with his guys. And we were friendly. And and there was a little bit of that energy, but he was a lot younger than I was. So I didn't really, that was the end of it. And then at one point, it was their last day or their second to last day. And he came over and we actually started talking beyond that. And he surprisingly shared some very personal things with me. And there was this moment of, and I've had it happen before where like people start sharing things that's like, whoa. Um, So yeah, he told me how he had served in the war, and but it was just like I felt honored that he would trust me with this conversation. And then he was leaving, and he stopped at my front door, and I don't remember the words. I wrote a blog about it. Maybe it's in there someplace, but something to the effect of, would you be interested in going out? And did he ask me how old I was first? He may have asked me how old I was. And at the time I was 61. And it took me by surprise because age is like something you never talk about. So to have this man right up front was like, why do you need to know my age? So I told him I didn't hem, and I could have. I said, I'm just, I'm a little over 50. But I told him point blank. And then he goes, well, I'm 41. And he goes, but I think you're really attractive. And I'd like to go out with you. Now, so super blunt, right? I mean, super blunt. And I'll say it's a cultural thing. Um,
Oh, right, right, right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. So because like most men that I would go out would never say like that. Be a little. They certainly wouldn't be asking my age. They'd just be like, do you want to go out and have coffee, or can I take you to dinner, or something like that? Not just how old you are, because I find you attractive. So it was like, yay for honesty, and I said yes. And then of course I panicked that I had said yes, but I said yes. And then we were going to figure out where. So he calls me up and he shares with me that he's actually, I don't know if he was recently divorced or was going through a divorce. So he just wanted to let me know that it wouldn't be anything serious, that it would just be, he thought it was hot. Did we want to have a good time? A euphemism, I would say. Uh, and I said yes. And
God.
but then I thought about it. And there were a couple things, fear being one of them, that I knew already. And this is after Steve and I had broken up. I knew already how intercourse would not come quickly, easily, even if I was turned on. So I needed someone who was going to be way patient, go real slowly. And the fact that he had, basically said, all I want is a good time was like, I couldn't trust that that would be how we would go into this. And then the other piece of it was I've never been the person to really sleep around, but I have had times where I've had sex with someone that didn't have the emotional component piece to it. And it rarely left me feeling very good about it. And I know myself because sex is really, there's not really a distinction between sex and my heart. So I didn't think I actually could do that, that I could. And then with this other, again, if the dryness hadn't been a part of it, then maybe I might have been more willing to give it a shot. But knowing that I needed to be safe around that, and then also going, yeah, at this stage in my life, I want both. I want the sex. I want the relationship. I want to be able to call you up and say, hey, let's go out. Hey, want to come watch a movie? Hey, I'm horny, come over. Um, and to have this sense of, we're not dating, we're not a couple. It's like, I don't really, and then, I hate to say it, but there's all kinds of, STDs about it out there. And it's like, do I really want to open the door to that, especially if he's going around asking other women if they want to have a good time while he's working out his divorce? That probably doesn't feel very smart. So at the end of the day, I called him back and I was so proud of myself. I said, I am so flattered. I'm so honored. You put a big old smile on my face. I wrote two great blogs about it, but I don't think so. And good luck. Good luck. It
Oh.
was so, yeah, it was it was good. It was good for my ego. And it was good to be true to what I actually need and want at this point in my life.
I love your clarity. Like you didn't really have to hem and haw very long to get clear on what you really wanted. That's
Yeah,
amazing. It's awesome.
yeah.
Nice. Really, really cool. I love the extended version. I didn't get this extended
Ah,
version. Bonus points. I love it. Um, yeah, I was going to jump in and say something, but then I realized, yeah, like for example, I think the sort of new understanding I have, like I totally relate to all those fears of like the new person and all this sort of thing, and it's because it's moving too quick.
yeah,
That you don't get to feel like you can say, well, you know what, I like to go slow. I might need lube. And when I mean by slow, I mean like just because you're hard, I'm not going to be necessarily ready. You're going to have to wait
right.
maybe an hour or so. Like it's hard to say all that with somebody who's brand new and you have no other connection to.
Yeah, yeah. And not to say some women can't, but I can't. Um,
Yeah, some women can, yeah, and it's totally fine. Yeah, that's great. You mean have that conversation or just do that?
just do that.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. It's so great. The third act is a different act,
It is different.
different ways of doing this dance of Eros,
Mhm.
and it sounds like you have a lot of clarity on your boundaries and what you want, and like, wow, that's and you have the desire to attract someone. So I think you've got all the right ingredients going on. But let's see if we've covered everything because I don't
Okay.
covered absolutely everything. Um, well, like for example, speaking of these younger men, can you say a little bit more about the dancing with the younger men, how that was?
Um,
And I'm surprised you haven't gotten any sort of propositions on the dance floor.
yeah, me too, in a weird way. Um, so I think some of it is some of it is potentially an age thing. They are younger, and there's a lot of pretty young women
Uh,
also dancing.
that is, that's my concern about that dance world is that it
Yeah,
is a crowd in general, isn't it?
yeah. So the part of me that goes, I'm not there for a hookup.
Right.
I have to let go of it being an opportunity to meet somebody because the minute I know what happens to me, the minute I do that, it gets all distorted.
Right.
Um, and letting it simply be, I'm going there to move, to connect physically, not necessarily in anything more than just let's figure out these steps. Dance is a conversation with the body, similar to what sex is, right? It's a conversation with the body. It's you lead, I follow. Your leading sucks. I have no idea what you want me to do. Uh,
Tell it like it is.
or you lead, and I don't have the experience to understand what you want me to do. That's
Mm.
what the classes are for. Um,
All classes, have you been out to?
so I've done some social dancing, and it's tough because I am a morning person and they don't start dancing until 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, I hate that.
And they are very crowded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and and as I've gotten older, I will admit I'm a little more nervous about going out at night. Silly things like, will I find parking? Um, as a woman, will I be safe? Um, so I have been out, then you go, and sometimes there is It's like being back in high school where the boys are asking everybody else to dance. And there's even more beautiful young women out there wearing, sexy little skirts, long legs, good dancers. The comparison just goes on.
Right.
I give myself permission to do the asking. So I have asked. And sometimes it's wonderful fun, and sometimes it's not so much fun. But I give myself a pat on the back for the courage it takes to ask.
Yes.
And sometimes guys will ask, and it can either be a fun time or it's like, no wonder you're having to ask because you're terrible. Um, and what you learn about somebody's personality when they're dancing is another thing. But it's very, and that's why the classes for me are nice. We rotate. So there's no of this having to ask anybody. You just rotate. You're dancing with different people. I love the instructor. Um, I recognize I'm now at a place where I have actually gotten more skilled than the leads. So in that way, it is a little bit frustrating. I've sort of outgrown. So at a certain point, I will, if I want to keep improving, yeah, improving, I'll have to, I might have to do a little more social dancing, but yeah, and so yeah, so I've just let go of the guy, and there's older guys yet, but we have not, it has not clicked in a way, and that just needs to be okay.
Right, right. Yes. So great to hear about your experiences because, yeah, that's my issue too. The late night thing, not interested. It's
Yeah,
just
it's hard.
it makes me think, well, there's a market for the earlier, like the ecstatic dance that I'm used to
Hmm.
going to is all in the day, and why can't there be social dancing during the day
Yeah,
for an
yeah.
older crowd or whatever? Yeah. And I did interview a friend, Erin Delaney, who has
Oh
done,
yeah, we were in a class together.
oh, no,
Yes, we did a bachata class together.
I know she's done bachata and isn't she,
Yes,
has a
yes.
dance background. I don't think but she does a lot of date time on the promenade. Don't they do some of that stuff?
Yeah, they start at 7. Yeah, so I could do that.
You can do that. Yeah, girl.
I could do that.
Um, but it's lit her up like
Yes.
nobody's business. And so the interview really shows how much fun she's having with all that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's see. Okay. Oh,
There's something we haven't talked about.
well, it's a piece that hasn't been mentioned regarding um, when I had asked you, do you want to date someone? And you've already answered that you
Mm.
do. But then you sort of said something like, um, I'm going to quote you.
Yes.
It's something like, if for any reason it doesn't happen, the greatest love of my life is myself.
Oh, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's true even if you do meet someone, possibly. Or
Yeah.
is that true? Do you want to say more about
I
that?
think it has to be. I think it has to be. Um, After Mike died was the first time I had lived alone. So up until that point, it was my parents, and then Steve and I lived together, and then I had roommates, and then I lived with my sister and a roommate, and then I met Mike, and then he and I moved in within 6 months. Um, and then I had a partner for 26 years. And so being alone was huge. Discovering how I really am very happy in my solitude. People talk about being lonely, and I rarely find that actually to be an issue.
So that wasn't part of the grieving.
Not really.
Fascinating.
Interestingly enough,
Okay.
it could have been that obviously I wanted him and all the things we did together, but it didn't necessarily translate into lonely. I mean, there were moments, and I know I did things in order to escape that feeling. Like me and Netflix got to be very good friends, and I loved to read. So I know that I would escape. I still do. And I don't know if the escape is just like, you've had a very long day and you just want things to quiet for a while.
Totally.
But it wasn't, yeah, I wasn't really lonely. And I am an introvert. So
Yeah.
I need that alone time in order to just regather, re-energize. So the and having survived without someone for 8 years is oh, and there's a second part. I have to remember to share that part that so yeah, so the possibility that there might not be a third act partner is not the end of the world. And I remember when I was younger and I was desperate for somebody, we all wanted the boyfriend, somebody to go to the prom with. And in college, everybody's dating and you want to be dating. And then I was married and that was like, yay, I had accomplished the big, a big thing or the big thing for a lot of women. I was married. And then I had a daughter. I was a mom. All of those big, beautiful things. Yeah, check. Yes, and of course, yes, and. Um, but sitting with, and there are people in my life who've never had that, who will die without having had a lifelong partner, without having children. And for many of them, that is a grief. For me, I feel I've been fortunate to have those. And if that is the end of that, I'm okay. I am okay with that. And that being said, the other piece I wanted to add to that was it took me a long time, maybe until this, and I continue to honor the book as being the thing that's just blown me open in terms of letting go of so many of the stories and the fears and the doubts and things that kept me small and limited, and just going, whoa, the world is open to you. You are the one who gets to step out. And the metaphor has literally been, you are the one who has held the key to your prison,
Key to the what?
to your prison. So all the ways that I have kept myself small, and not to say that I haven't taken big steps and had lots of courage. Yes, yes, yes. But that scarcity piece is still less so, has been very strong in my life. So when I was looking at the possibility of dating, which just feels the part of me that was, are you saying that it would be okay if you didn't have anyone because you really feel that way? Or are you saying that because you're actually afraid that you want it and don't trust that you will have it? Or you have no faith that you will have it? So it's possible both are true. There is fear, sounds like a big word. I don't think it's fear. A little bit of anxiety, worry about what it could be to meet somebody new. But that applies to making new friends as well, not just a partner. What it takes to open yourself up to somebody, to risk that they won't like you. I mean, I feel like we're back in school, right? They won't like me. I won't be, my desperate need to belong, to feel like I fit in. So yeah, so it's easier to tell ourselves the story of, well, I actually don't, I know I actually don't want to get married again. That is a truth. But maybe up until my third act opened, I wasn't really ready to take the risk of what it might be to meet somebody where it didn't work out, where I got ghosted, where whatever happened that I could, our potential to just turn that into this great big, ugly morass of horrible things that could happen. So yeah, to actually admit that maybe I do want to meet somebody is a huge, huge first step. Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, I am the greatest love of my life. I have to be. We have to be. Otherwise, our energy goes there, right? We lose center. We lose our own sovereignty. I'm hearing that word a lot now. And I think that was what was so beautiful about Mike and I, is that we were interdependent. We weren't dependent on each other. We weren't independent of each other, but we each had our own lives, our own passions. He supported my creative, I supported the work he was doing in the world. We did things together and we did things apart. We each had our own friends, which was another reason why when he died, I wasn't left so destroyed. I had my own life. That was there for me. And I think that is a huge, huge thing in relationships, is we cannot be so dependent on the other that we can't stand on our own feet.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Lots of new stuff coming out.
Yeah, really good stuff. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just have to say, you being a writer, it's so, I just feel like I could ask you anything and when you answered it, it will just come out in a whole new way with new depth, and it's wonderful. Wonderful to hear you drop in and then just share, in the moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you make a very welcoming, you create that space.
Oh,
You create that invitation. So,
so glad. Just going to check my notes, Marianne, to see
all
if
right.
really truly covered. There's a few little details. Let's see. You did say a beautiful thing. You said the grief has shifted. It's been an 8-year process, right? And it's not that you're happy that he died, but
Right.
you would never have become the woman that you are if he was still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard thing to say.
Can you say it for us?
Yes, I can say it for you
That-
in my words
Yeah.
that you read. Yes. So, and it's interesting because just a few days ago, I was talking with a friend who had gone through a breakup, and not too long ago, and this idea that we are forged by the fire, and I never, ever, ever would want to go back to what I experienced after he died. And not to say that there aren't losses that I will need to face in the future, people I love now who may go before I do. And I would never want him to have died. He was such a good man, such a good person. He adored me. And I adored him. And I didn't know how much I loved him until he died. That is also something I discovered. And we take people for granted. We just assume they will always be there. And again, he was older, so I knew there was a good chance he would go before I did. And we had gone through our stuff, and it's so easy to focus on the negatives and what he didn't give me and what was lacking and what I wanted more of. And then he died, and it was like, oh my God. And what it takes to survive that, to reinvent myself, to write a book, to start salsa dancing, to have this conversation with you. I don't think my third act would look the same. I think I'd probably still be in like 2.5 acts, 2 3/4 act. At some point, he probably would have gone before me. And the part of me that's grateful that I was young enough when he died, when this evolution, and it's so crazy saying this, but that I could be devastated and there was still life for me to continue with. And it's this crazy, beautiful thing the way we evolve and change and grow and look back and go, holy cow. And of course, how much the conversation about time changes, the conversation about purpose, meaning, life changes when all of a sudden that one that you held to is gone. And, we either evolve or we die. So it's weird. It's a weird one to say.
Can you say the line again? Just
Oh, something to the effect of, yeah, it's a both and, that I could at one time, on one hand, never ever have wanted him to go. And on the other hand, would never have become the woman that I am today.
so beautiful. And it just speaks to how you have chosen to become the woman that you never would have been if he was still alive. You're choosing that. You're choosing the third act to be, I don't know, you said some beautiful things, like you said, gosh, um, oh well, maybe you've already said it, and I just know, um, oh, um, yeah, no, sorry, that is so lame, but what I've been left from rereading, from the notes of our first conversation is how, excited you are about this new chapter, this third act.
Yeah.
Like, that is so cool.
It is. And I wasn't there 2 months ago. I wasn't there 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But, and I actually did want to backtrack on the one thing about him.
Yeah.
The woman I have become, I would have become a different woman with him. I mean, we evolve, we have to evolve. So but it's like, that sliding doors, right? You went this way or you went that way. There's no I mean, he wanted to move to Europe. I might have ended up living in France, who knows?
Who knows?
I will never know. I only know where I am right now. And I know I am incredibly grateful and proud and happy with where I am right now. And that is an incredible thing to say, because ask me that 8 years ago, I never would have believed that was possible. That I could be at a point in my life where I was so not just happy and excited, but confident, that feeling worthy enough, deserving enough, whole enough that I could step into this next part of my life, and that it could be a good thing, that I could see it as a positive thing. I just finished writing a blog piece about embracing the unknown, and there's so much fear about what we don't know. There's so much fear about change. And so to be at this point and go, I am really excited. Like, to be doing this with you is perfect. It's perfect. It speaks to exactly what I want to be doing in this third act, to being more visible, more vocal, more trusting of what I have to offer, of what I have to say. And if 3 people listen to it, yay. the fact that you and I are having this incredible conversation. I am so excited for what is coming next.
Thank you so much, Marianne. So, so enjoyed everything about it. So much. And to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued.
Be continued. I look forward to checking back in and having.
Yeah, scene 3.
Great. So, Marianne, where can people find out about your fabulous blog and the book and where else you are
In the world.
there in the world?
Yes. So I have a website called mariannebecoming.com.
I love that.
The book is called There Be Dragons, Navigating Life After Loss. I'm on Facebook. I don't really do Instagram. It's just too for me. Um, and then a lot of the writings, yeah. So I'm on Medium as well, but I think with moving more deliberately into my third act, I'm literally thinking of it as a book. Yeah, just becoming more mindful of putting things out in the world and, being more visible and yeah, just being open. I heard this great quote. It was, uh, know nothing, be open to everything. And I think that you can have boundaries around that, especially the being open to everything. It's like, yeah, maybe not that big. So,
Right. Awesome. Well, we'll have those deets in the description so people can access that and learn more about your awesomeness. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. This was so much fun. So
Yay.
much fun. Thank
Really, you're welcome. Thank you.